shut up. Welcome to Butcher Block Horror Podcast, where we exhume horror movies from the past and cut into what makes them so delectable. I'm Kane.
I am JD.
And I'm Leslie Stahl.
Hi, Leslie.
You're what?
Leslie Stahl from 60 Minutes.
Why?
It just seemed like a fun reference to make.
Jesus.
He's about to interview us.
Today we're throwing the grandfather of the modern zombie, George Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Onto the slab and carving up our favorite portions to force feed to you, our unwitting victims.
Yep.
If you enjoy the taste of these feasts of fright, then give us a follow on your favorite podcasting app. If you YouTube, make sure to subscribe to Brainworms Presents and click the bell. You can also go to WeGiveYouBrainworms.com. This will allow you to join our Funky Fresh Discord server or support the show directly using our Patreon link.
Click it or tick it.
Yeah.
Don't ever cop out on anything I'm working with you on ever again. Like ever.
Ever.
Never.
All right, so this season is a zombie season where every movie is a zombie movie.
Yep.
Every single one, except for, well, maybe one of them.
No, all of them.
Well, isn't one of them in debate?
I mean, Serpent in the Rainbow is sort of a voodoo movie, but it has voodoo zombies in it.
It has zombies in it. It counts.
Technically, it's a zombie movie.
28 Days Later?
Fast zombies. Totally count.
Technically, those are infected. Those people aren't undead. They are alive, just infected with an illness. And the way that they win in the theatrical release of the film is, you know, the zombies all starve to death and die, but they're still acting like zombies.
Yeah,
and
they count.
I lobbied
count.
for that film to be a part of this season, so I was just testing you. I was just poking you.
Yeah, 28 Days Later is spiritually. It has the heart of a zombie movie.
It
really
really
does.
It really does. All right, well, then let's get jumping in on this right now.
Okay.
George Romero, let's talk about him. JD.
Well, first, I'd like to mention that Night of the Living Dead was released October 1st of 1968. And it was shown for the first time at the Fulton Theater in Pittsburgh. And actually, at that time, the MPAA film rating system was not quite in place yet. So, like, imagine this matinee viewing.
Imagine, if you will.
The middle of the day, and most of the viewers in the theater are teens, preteens, adolescents. There was no one there to say that these kids shouldn't. No one knew what they were about to see. So
Weren't people vomiting in the theaters?
children are probably, I mean, those would be boomers, right? Like, those people are still in therapy. That explains what the fuck is wrong with the baby boomers.
They were just ruined by Night of the Living Dead.
They were ruined by this movie when they were children. That is the only explanation I could think of.
And it was banned in Germany.
And this film has a runtime of 96 minutes with a budget of $114,000 with a box office return of $30 million internationally. I think that's the biggest swing of profit margin I've ever heard of in a horror film.
Right.
I mean, it was the top grossing film in Europe.
If we're going to start off talking about George, let's mention the thing that we had mentioned during the watch party about how he got fucking juiced out of all of the royalties on this film.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, the big thing that happened was that the copyright status was in question. So when it was originally put out, it was released as Night of the Flesh Eaters. And then they changed the name to Night of the Living Dead. But the original theatrical distributor, the Walter Reed organization, they failed to place a new copyright on the new film title. So because of that, the way that copyright law worked back then, it immediately entered the public domain. So there's been like, since the movie was released, there's been like a bunch of different VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, like people just can take the film and put it on a disc and sell it. And nothing can be done about
with it. Yeah, you could put it on a fucking cassette tape if you felt like it.
It's on YouTube with just no ads or consequences.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm actually going to end up streaming it because I can.
Because you can.
I feel like this movie is also like on the space probe that was like launched into the universe like in the 60s or 70s or whenever that was. I could be making that up. Anyway.
Interesting if true.
It would be a good idea to show this to alien worlds.
I don't know if that's a good idea.
No, we need to be transparent about what we are down here.
Yeah, what we've got going on.
Good point. Yeah, it's
Just let them know.
that type of bold honesty makes me uncomfortable.
Well, it's all right. So anyway, the director of Night of the Living Dead was legendary George A. Romero. He was the director, the photographer, and he edited a good portion of this film. And so we've discussed this legendary man multiple occasions already, but I'm going to put together a little refresher course here for all of those who could use it. You know who you are. George was born February 4th, 1940, and left us July 16th of 2017. For Romero, the beginning of his zombie apocalypse journey, this was it. This was the film that started it all.
So now, did the story start off as a zombie apocalypse film, or did it start off as something really silly?
So that I don't have details on, but if you would like to fill in that, answer your own question.
Right. So, per the Wikipedia, it was co-written as a horror comedy by John Russo and George Romero under the title Monster Flick. And an early screenplay was supposed to be basically, what's that Jeff Goldblum movie where the Earth
Girls Are Easy?
Earth Girls Are Easy? It's basically similar to that,
Okay.
but the aliens come down to Earth and they befriend human teenagers, right? That was the original idea. And then it turned into a young man runs away from home and discovers rotting human corpses that the aliens are using for food sources, right? So it just kept getting crazier and crazier and crazier. And then George was actually influenced by I Am Legend.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what ultimately, I don't want to go on and on and on about it, but it ultimately led to the Night of the Living Dead that we know and love today.
Right.
And then he turned it into...
He turned it into a universe.
Right.
He really did, yeah.
Started with Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead.
Yep.
And then George was like, apparently I can't sell anything else, which is silly because he did Creepshow,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he did Martin, like he did a bunch of different styles of horror movies, but the Dead series was really what made his name famous.
I wonder if any of those original scripts exist anywhere.
I don't know, you'd have to dive in and see.
Those would be a riot to read.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I was today years old when I learned that the movie was originally supposed to be a horror comedy. So.
Right.
Wait, does that mean today is your birthday?
Today is your birthday.
Da-da-da-da-da.
No,
It's my birthday too, yeah.
that's not what that means at all.
No, today you're today years old. Kane, happy birthday. So Dawn of the Dead was released in 1978 and Day of the Dead was released in 1985, all sort of part of the Romero zombie universe. And then came Land of the Dead in 2005, Diary of the Dead 2007, and Survival of the Dead in 2009. There are, however, a few more pieces to this puzzle, and they are trapped in development hell.
Forever.
It's possible they will be released. There is talk that things will evolve past this developmental hell. But anyway, one being Road of the Dead. The date remains unannounced, but it is supposed to be being directed by Matt Berman over a script that he co-wrote with Romero himself.
Ooh, I wonder if Road of the Dead is going to be people dealing with the zombie apocalypse by turning all of the undead into highways.
Maybe.
Oh, that's brilliant.
You know, and then maybe they're like little electrodes attached to all of their digits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're a road and a power source.
Oh, yeah.
That would be absolutely brilliant.
Would the tagline be Death is a Highway?
I don't want that to happen.
And then a musical parody of Life is a Highway.
Yeah, that
would
was the
just
joke,
be the inverse.
JD. That was the joke.
I'm taking that joke to the next level.
As far as
I
it
see
can
your
go.
joke and I raise you.
I think you actually caught it on fire and threw it outside to scare off the other jokes.
Well, now we're just impervious to telling any sort of jokes. So
Yeah.
back to
What's going
business.
on?
Welcome to season 5, people.
We don't know what we're doing.
We never did.
We're your problem now.
And we never claimed to, so we're in the right place.
Yeah. Celebrate it.
Anyway, the final piece, date of release yet to be announced, and it's titled Twilight of the Dead. And this film spawned from Romero's dissatisfaction with Diary and Survival of the Dead.
That's the one that's a love story between a zombie and a human person, right?
And the zombies glitter, right?
Yeah.
Oh, God. So, okay, I can understand why then George would have not been pleased. So, yeah, he was not very pleased with either of those.
I mean, he did them. Like, he was the creative force behind both of those movies.
I think there were some pretty significant studio interventions.
Yeah.
We're talking about Night of the Living Dead today. We're not going to worry about those other movies until we get to them at a later date, maybe. But yeah, so
Right.
Anyway, there's this whole thing going on here between Romero and Paolo Zioletti. And Zioletti and Romero co-wrote Twilight of the Dead. And this process was stalled out hard upon Romero's passing in 2017. But the film is now under supervision of Suzanne Romero and Zioletti, and is now, the script, I guess, is being finished up by Joe Kentner and Robert L. Lucas.
I'm trying to wrap my head around why, because you're married to an artist when they pass away, why does that give you an in-depth understanding of where the story was going to go?
Well, I think it was like George and her were close in that way. He would explain his vision to her, and I think it was in his living sort of will that, he must have described to her what he wanted, because there's a quote from Suzanne saying that this film, and I'm speaking of Twilight.
Of the Dead, not Twilight, Far Moon Rising, or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, sure. Fuck that. This is the film that George truly wanted to make, although someone else will carry the torch of directing the film.
Right.
But it will very much be a George A. Romero film.
Okay,
That's
because
a direct quote.
I think that the Dune series jumps the shark because Frank Herbert died and then his son did the rest. And I just don't feel like just because, you grew up with the guy that wrote Dune doesn't mean that you should take over. Like, maybe the story just doesn't get to be finished.
Yeah.
Maybe we just have to finish it in our heads.
That happened with the Wheel of Time books as well.
Right. Yeah. Like, no, stop it.
Yeah.
Quit cash grabbing. All right. Quit cash grabbing. But if George was like, I'm going to die and I want this movie to be made at some point, Suzanne, this is what I want to have happen, then that's different.
Yeah. It doesn't work like whether the writer was alive or dead, because look at what happened to George R. Martin with Game of Thrones. HBO just took it over and did a number on it. And
I mean, that's another discussion altogether, because he hadn't even finished the book series yet when they started. And they knew that books would sometimes be years and years apart.
Right.
And they still were like, let's make this show, even though the story isn't finished yet.
those bastards.
Fists are shaking.
Yep, I agree. So the producers of Night of the Living Dead, Russell W. Sterner and Carl
Is it
Hardman.
Sterner or is it Striner?
Oh, Striner. Man, I may have mispronounced that. I've been known to.
It happens. It happens.
Fuck
with
up
those
the English
strange
language.
Italian last names. They're
Words
hard
are made
to,
up anyway.
They're hard to
it's-
get right.
Nothing's real. So Strainer, right? Strainer. Okay.
Or
Is
Striner,
a producer.
you know.
Striner. Potato. Anyway, Striner is a producer and an actor born 2 days after George Romero. So he came out of the oven February 6th, 1940. He's the older brother of Gary Striner, and he was a producer and an actor in Night of the Living Dead. He was the character who played Johnny.
Look, all right, quit stepping in my fucking Kool-Aid, all right?
What?
I am splashing, man. I saw an opportunity to splash in a puddle, and I took it.
It's a weird metaphor.
Weird metaphor indeed.
Well, how is it weird? Go on and explain that, because maybe our listeners will be amused.
Stepping in my
Stepping in
Kool-Aid?
Kool-Aid. Yeah, it's a
Why
weird
does,
way to...
yeah,
Oh.
that doesn't make any sense at all. That's why I said it that way.
If you were like stealing the Kool-Aid, that I would get because you're taking it
Or
away.
quit drinking my Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, quit crashing through my wall like the Kool-Aid pitcher guy.
Well, this is just going right off the rails. Can we go ahead and go back into talking about Russell, Striner, Stinner, Strenner, Sturberger, Burger?
Burgermeister, Meisterburger.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So he was a producer. Who else was a producer?
Me.
Joe, you were a producer of the 1968 classic Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah.
Carl Hardman was the other one. And I not a whole lot of information there on Carl.
No?
Not too much.
You don't want to maybe dip into my tiddlywinks again?
Your tiddlywinks have already been dipped in. My work is done here.
Should I go? Like, do the two of you have some stuff you need to work out?
We're working it out right now,
We're
Joe.
working it out
You're just the
together.
arbiter, all
You're
right?
the glue.
Do I need to be in the room?
You're the meat in the Kane and JD bun.
It's important that you're here, all right? It's important that
Yeah,
you're here.
we
So
need you.
Carl Hardman,
We need you, baby.
Die hard, man.
or hardest man, harder man.
The world's hardest man.
He's so hard.
All right, so you didn't get any info about him?
No,
Just how
because
hard
I
he
had
is.
all this other info to collect, so I said, fuck it.
Right. Fuck you, Carl Hardman.
Yeah, sorry, buddy.
You're too hard
Yeah.
for radio.
Too hard a man. We couldn't do that to our listeners' ears. It was just... Anyway.
Okay.
On to the plot. On to the plot.
Yay!
So the film begins with siblings driving through rural Pennsylvania to a cemetery to visit their father's grave.
That would be Russell Striner as Johnny and Judith Odia as Barbara.
Is it Odia or O'Day?
I thought it was O'Day.
I like Odia better.
O'Day. It sounds fancier.
I don't think that's correct, though.
No, it's O'Day, but I like Odia better. I thought we were just gonna fuck up all the names.
Oh, we're doing it. It's a bit. We're mispronouncing the
Yeah.
names on purpose.
That was
Okay.
cute. I like that. Very nice. Well
Just the
done.
George
gentle,
Ramiro.
Just a gentle twist of the knife.
I like George Romeo. Romero.
George Ramiro.
Yeah, Romero.
Romero.
George Romero.
Romero.
That's how like Astro from the Jetsons would say his name, I think. Anyway.
Like Judith Ridley.
Well, yeah, as
Sorry.
they
All right.
were
So yeah, they're going to
around.
the cemetery, right? That's what they're doing.
Indeed, yes. To visit the old man's grave, and she gets out or whatever, and there's a car radio's got some technical difficulties. I think they miss some information they might really need.
Yeah, they were about to be informed that the recently dead were
Up
reanimating
to some
and eating
shit,
people.
yeah. So
Yeah,
little
getting up
did
to
they
the
know
Dickens.
why all of that was to come about, but we have our infamous scene where Johnny is being a
They're
dick.
coming to get you, Barbara.
Absolutely.
The frequently referenced scene.
Yep.
So yeah, as he's scarring her mentally, senselessly, because he's a dickbag.
Because he's a
yeah.
dick.
He doesn't go to church. That's what needs to be said.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a declaration he even informs us all of.
Yep.
So anyway,
Johnny was teasing her.
yeah, he was being too much, and then so this creepy, ominous, gaunt figure pulls up on them, and he just looks like an unmade bed. He's got a tattered suit, and he just starts attacking Johnny. And
Played
Yeah.
by the infamous Bill Hinsman, who all of his feature films that he was involved in, he was a ghoul of some sorts.
Nice.
that's appropriate because he has a very ghoulish look. It's probably a minimal makeup job, I would say.
That was kind of mean.
Well,
Wow.
I'd say that I shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but he was reanimated, so...
Johnny felt inconvenienced by having to drive far, and he took that out on his loved ones, as you do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah, Johnny ends up getting whacked by this guy and blasts his head off a tombstone after a tussle. Needless to say, Barbara, she's just, at this point, completely fucked. Mentally, she's broken. So she takes off.
I did want to make a quick point. During the filming of Night of the Living Dead, Gary Striner, Russell Striner's brother,
His bro.
accidentally caught himself on fire while
Ooh.
attempting to ignite a prop.
That's
and
not good.
Bill Hinsman managed to actually put out the fire, saving Striner's life.
Nice.
Hinsman's a hero.
Hensman's heroes.
And you were talking shit about the way he looks. JD, you should feel bad.
Hey, I mean, if somebody said that I looked like a ghoul, I don't think I would necessarily be offended.
I guess that's a good point, especially if that's your moneymaker, right? Like if that's how you end up earning a living.
Mhm.
Yeah, like he collected many paychecks based off of the shape of his skull. That's,
I wish I could collect paychecks based off the shape of my skull.
Once you've let loose this mortal coil, your family might when you are studied by scientists.
I do have kind of a big round head.
You do.
Well, hey, the aliens are going to love it. So Barbara is, she flees the scene and takes refuge in a farmhouse, only to find a half-eaten corpse of a woman who lived there.
Although she gets better.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Slightly better. She finds a number of staggering pale weirdos. That number is increasing. And they're all led by the creepo who killed her brother.
So she just stumbles into a goth party, is what you're saying.
Essentially, yeah, like a goth club, a nightclub, or whatever. Everyone's dancing, but not really.
Yeah.
Symbolically. So a man named Ben arrives onto the scene, and this dude's like...
Yeah, Ben was played by Dwayne Jones.
Hell yeah, Dwayne. This man meant business.
I kind of wish he was played by Dwayne Johnson.
I don't.
That would be different. That'd be so...
be awesome.
He wouldn't even need weapons if that were the case.
Fuck yeah.
That's very stupid, and you're ruining everything.
It's just your opinion.
Dwayne can't play every role, Joe. Sorry. We know that.
That saddens you.
Just take a look at the poster on your wall and feel satisfied from that.
Yeah.
Would it be the slow and the stumbling? Is that the zombie movie that The Rock would be in?
Probably. That sounds
Sure.
about right.
I'd watch
Okay.
that.
I bet you would.
Adequate title for such a... Anyway.
I was making a reference to the Fast and the
Fast and the
Furious.
Furious,
Yeah.
right.
No,
yeah.
I get it.
I didn't think you guys were catching it, and that was a really funny joke, and it kind of hurts my feelings that neither of you laughed.
It wasn't.
Oh, no, that was a terrible joke, Kane. That
It wasn't that funny.
like on par with my humor, possibly even a degree or two lesser.
Whatever, that was comedy gold. You guys just don't get it. I'm ahead of your time. That's what it is.
I understood it immediately.
I'm
I just didn't
thinking
feel the need to have a whole conversation about it.
comedy silicone bronze at best.
Comedy tin.
Yeah. That was comedy zinc.
Comedy aluminum foil.
It was like
Yeah.
nickel-plated zinc, maybe.
Oof.
Sorry there. But if you keep working at it, you're going to get better. That's what I tell myself. Anyway.
I'm
Eventually,
leaving.
you will get good at recording podcasts, Kane. We
I'm
promise.
getting out of here. This is it. I'm done.
Only 4 more seasons before people will be able to tolerate us.
All right. So she
Yeah,
meets
yeah.
Ben.
Yeah, Ben arrives. He bursts onto the scene. Like, he is a man on fire. He's got clarity. He's got a vision. He knows, he has confidence. You can tell that he knows how to whoop zombie ass.
Hell yeah.
It's just his attitude, and like, well, poor Barbara is having herself a mini,
I don't think it was many. I think it was a big meltdown.
Yeah, she's in distress the entire movie.
Yeah, she was just in this like catatonic state most of the movie, and like Ben is just all like, "This is what we need to do," and then he takes some time to reflect, and it's all pretty brilliant, and she's just like, like stumbling, like giving her reaccount of what happened.
Particularly enjoyed that scene where Ben is disassembling that table.
Mhm.
And he's explaining his first real interactions with the living dead. And you could see it in the actor's face. He was amazing. You could see it as he's processing everything. He was just on survival mode. They've kind of battened down the hatches a little bit. And then he has a moment to kind of reflect. And while he's doing that, he's like processing what's going on.
Mhm.
I absolutely loved that.
Yeah,
And it's fun to note that scene between Judith O'Dea and Dwayne Jones, that entire scene was ad-libbed.
that's incredible.
Neither one of them were telling that story from the script. That story was, this is the basics, tell us about it. And I'm just flabbergasted by how good that was.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So Ben, he's a bright one. He thinks it's smart to board up the farmhouse, the windows, the doors, everything. And Ben also finds a lever action rifle, which would come in very handy, in the closet. And he arms himself with it, and all the ghouls outside, they kind of seem to fear it. They also don't like fire. Barbara, like I said, she's a hot fucking mess, and she is just deep in her shock, and rightfully so.
Agreed.
She becomes very surprised by the appearance of Harry Cooper and Tom, who emerge from the cellar.
I would like to say that we do need to focus on the fact that during her little like freak out,
Yeah.
she stands up and she's like, we have to go get Johnny. We have to go get Johnny. And Ben is trying to be calm. And he's like, hey, chill out. No, Johnny is dead. We cannot go out there. Did you see this? No Sunday picnic out there. That's bad news.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then she hits him and then he hits her back and it kind of like jars her.
Mhm.
And then the realization of everything becomes too much that she passes out. and then he gently sits her on the couch, and that's when the others come up.
Right.
Yeah, then we meet Harry Cooper.
No relation to Agent Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks.
Right, and Harry Cooper was actually played by Carl Hardman.
I know a dog named Special Agent Cooper, and he is quite the sweetheart.
That rules. I don't want to talk about this movie anymore. I'm bored.
Well, sorry, Joe. Anyway, Tom and Harry. Who played Tom? Kane, go ahead.
It was actually Tom and Judy. And it was Keith Wayne and Judith Ridley.
Okay, well, I didn't get there yet. I was going to mention Judy. But anyway.
Yep.
Well, you said Tom and Jerry. I assumed that you were just making the same joke again that you guys made during the watch party.
I was making a joke. It's okay, though. I thought it was subtle.
Okay. Today's episode is going to be, instead of the zombie apocalypse, it's going to be the joke
The
apocalypse.
humor apocalypse.
Yeah, the
yes.
laugh apocalypse. I was trying to do a pun. It didn't play.
Yeah,
Laugh-ocalypse.
the jokes have been bad today, guys.
Yeah.
So Harry, he had taken shelter down with his wife, Helen, and young daughter, Karen.
Helen was played by Marilyn Eastman, and Karen was played by Kyra Shawn.
And at a point, Tom and Judy had showed up to hide after hearing the broadcast about some brutal killings.
Which was wise.
Very wise. So, cut to Tom and Ben frantically running around the house, trying to figure out how to board the place up in a way that keeps everyone safe and effectively keeps the zombies out. It's probably not possible, but ultimately they did what they could. Harry is...
He's a dickbag.
He's a total dickbag. Like, he is not
Harry
having...
sucks.
He's not having it one bit.
The universally hated Harry Cooper.
He raises a few logical points, but for the most part,
It's a lesson, right? It's a cautionary tale that if you have a good idea and you're polite, concise, and nice about it, people will listen to your idea. They might not do it, but they'll at least hear you out.
Mm-hmm.
But if
Sure.
you're a giant dickbag, all of your ideas will seem like toxic and like poison, and no one's going to want to do what you say.
Right.
That's
So
true. Yeah,
keep that in mind, kids. If the zombie apocalypse happens and you have a great idea,
don't impose your will.
just suggest it. Let people make their own decisions and don't be an ass about it.
I mean, that's good
Yeah.
advice for non-apocalypse situations, too.
That's not what we're talking about right now, Joe.
Kane, don't impose your will.
Hey, Kane, remember that thing we were talking about
3 seconds prior? That's okay.
Oh, we're really dumb. We're all very dumb.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
this is what happens when we take a break.
Yep.
Hey, I think we should take more breaks. Maybe we
No,
just do
we're
one
never doing it
episode
again.
every... Oh,
No.
yes, we are.
Never again. Never again.
We have to.
So I know we're interrupting the episode. This is when I realized that I don't necessarily have great ideas.
Okay.
During the break, I was going to release every week a Guess Who clip, right? And it was
Well, you
just going
did
to be...
release one,
Hold on, let me finish. Can I finish?
but it's more fun
Can
to
I finish?
interrupt you. It's more fun
Let
for
me
me
finish.
to fuck
All
with
right.
you.
So I released that first one, right?
Such a butthole, JD.
And
I know.
no one guessed it. No one even commented on it, right? It just sat there, a ghost in the field, right? And when it came time to recording the next one, I went back through and looked at how many people had listened to it, and a few people had listened to the Guess Who, and nobody had put a guess down. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to record this and edit this and put it out there for no one to want to click on it. So no one guessed. That's why.
Fair enough.
Kane turned the car around and went home.
I did. I took my toys and I went home.
His eyes welled up with tears.
I was listening to Yanni. It was a whole thing.
I thought you'd be a Zamfir guy.
Yeah.
That and Enya.
And yeah,
Oh.
for sure. Sail away,
Yeah.
sail away.
Oh,
Did you buy the Pure Moods compilation?
No, I stole it from the internet.
None of the listeners are going to know what the fuck we're talking about.
No one listens to this show. All right. Just sail away, sail away, sail away.
Oh, wow.
Bought that CD.
Oh, God. All right. Let's keep going. All right. So Harry Cooper, dickbag, good idea, bad delivery.
dickbag extraordinaire. I'm going to interrupt you and add that.
Yeah.
Now the farmhouse is fully under siege by an ever-increasing number of ghouls.
Yeah. They were actually never referred to as zombies in the film.
Ghouls.
Yep.
Ghouls works. Yeah.
The Ghouls of Summer.
Everybody inside the house, they must have felt like the Beatles in that place or something like that, or like Elvis or some shit, except no one was getting hit with panties.
Yeah.
I'm composing myself. Give me a second.
Did you just think of panties and get Twitter hated and have to stop?
I'm blushing. My cheeks are real rosy right now. There.
Yeah. I figured it was because of how flat that joke was.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's a slight bit of embarrassment.
I get a laugh every 10 jokes I tell. I'm a volume jokester.
Right. Quantity over quality.
Quantity over quality for me. That's
this is a mess. This is a mess. All right.
Okay.
Just a mess.
I have to turn this into a podcast later.
Yeah, stop complaining, Joe. All right.
Sorry, Joe. Sorry.
Tired of your belly aching.
Oh, man.
Anyway, so now the whole crew is hovering around the old radio, which is their only connection to information regarding the state of things, the current affairs in the world.
Except for that television.
That's later, though.
And so the news is all bad news for the most part. Basically, the entire East Coast is being turned inside out by zombie madness.
And devoured.
Yeah, that's fair. Groups of armed militia, though, band of armed men, they get together and they're all about killing these fuckers off. But it's, they're not that successful at it at first anyway. But the group does learn that it takes a headshot to stop a zombie. Much like it also took a headshot to stop my modeling career.
Nice.
Burning them is another favored flavor.
Yeah, so there was a point, and I've seen this movie a bunch of times, right? This wasn't my first watch. And there's a point where Ben puts a tire iron through a zombie's forehead, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Barbara she's kind of like glass-eyed gazing at everything, like she's seeing it for the first time. And she looks down, and the guy's eyes are still moving. His body is still, right? He's not physically moving around, but his eyes are still moving. So I'm wondering, after all these times of watching this movie, were the zombies not dead after the headshot? And they actually had to burn them to get rid of the bodies.
Probably that, because you probably had to destroy the part of the brain that was
controlling motor functions.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm kind of inclined, and obviously, like, it happened on screen, so we have, it's worth having a conversation about it. But I'm inclined to think that actor just didn't know to play dead. So they were kind of just looking around.
Right. Because, I always thought they burned the bodies just to get rid of them.
Right.
But what if they burned them because they're still active?
Sure.
They just can't physically move anymore. So, like, what if you slipped and fell on one and it accidentally cut your arm with its teeth? They're just removing accidents by catching them on fire.
Right. But you're turning into a zombie either way. This isn't the zombie bites you and you turn. This is you die and you turn.
Right. But if you get bit, the bite kills you and you turn.
Yeah, exactly. So either way, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And amidst the zombie destruction, the group also learns that there are some rescue centers available to survivors. And this gives them a temporary sense of hope, for some more than others. A flicker of hope nonetheless.
I wish I had a temporary sense of hope.
That was bleak, Joe. I'm sad now.
Yeah.
Joe is our sad friend. So it always makes sense that if somebody's going to Eeyore a thing up, it's going to be Joe.
It's true.
Yeah. So yeah, scientists are also beginning to theorize that the reanimation of the corpses may have something to do with radiation from a space probe.
To Venus.
Yeah, space probe to Venus. That's an unlikely place to send a probe. But anyway, yeah, it's an educated guess.
I would say Mercury is the most unlikely place that you'd want to send a probe.
Yeah, because anything even close to it's just gonna
Exactly.
be incinerated.
What are your thoughts about probing Uranus?
Uranus is a solid place to probe, I would say.
Nice,
Hmm?
nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, but boy, were they wrong on all of this, because really, hell is full, so the dead must roam the earth and feast on the flesh of the living, I think is...
See, you're diving into content that we could use for later seasons, all right?
That's okay. No one's listening.
Nothing matters.
Ben devises a plan... Sorry. Ben devises a plan to obtain some medical supplies for Karen. Karen's in some deep shit. So the goal is to transport the group to one of the rescue centers. They need gas.
which could probably have been inquired by probing your anus.
It could have. So this extreme stupidity happens. The group loses Tom and Judy.
Total clusterfuck.
How do they lose Tom and Judy?
A mean gas leak, or a spill rather, and the truck explodes, killing them.
I would like to clarify the sequence of events a little bit better there.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So they found a key, and it said fuel pump, right?
Mhm.
They drive out there, they get to the fuel pump, and the desperation that they feel when they realize that the keys aren't working, Ben shoots the lock off, right? Which is risky as shit to begin with.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
It's very sparkly.
And then when he shoots the lock off, he sits down, or before he shot the lock off, he set his torch down that they were using to kind of ward the zombies off.
Mhm.
And when Tom pulls the gas out, he just starts spraying it instead of waiting till it's secured into the gas tank. He just pulls it out, spraying it, right? So gas is going everywhere. It's all over the truck, and it catches fire.
Right.
And then they drive away. Tom and Judy drive away in the truck. The truck then bursts into flames.
Yep.
I just felt it was necessary to dive deep into that because that sequence of events was really well done.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we learn the true magnitude to which Harry is a giant bag of dirty dicks, because as Ben charges back to the door of the farmhouse, Harry decides he's not letting him get back in. Ben ends up getting in just because
he breaks the door in.
Yeah.
He's bigger and stronger and just better than Harry, so he gets in, and then he gives Harry a tune-up.
Right.
I will say this. Harry comes and helps him secure the door.
And then he gets his tune-up.
And then he gets his tune-up.
Yeah, you gotta handle business and then handle business, if you know what I'm saying. So after Ben's done whooping Harry's ass...
God, I hate Harry so much.
Harry sucks.
Yeah, he was one of the most unlikable characters of any horror film.
Good job, Carl Hardman, on making me hate your guts.
Truly. And so, yeah, after Ben lets him know, he's a coward and all that stuff. Meanwhile, the zombies enjoy a really nice little barbecue feast.
Which was all ham.
Yeah.
Like, it was all ham and stuff like that. And one of the crew, or actually it might have been one of the actors, had owned a butcher shop. So all of those entrails and that kind of stuff that you see, like, that was donated to the movie by this guy.
Oh, nice.
Right. But those entrails represented the toasty remains of Tom and Judy.
Yep.
And so now everyone is trying to escape. Ben and Harry basically hate each other. Zombies are bursting through barricades. All hell is breaking loose, like literally. Ben busts a cap in Harry's ass. He
had
has
it coming.
Yeah.
It was time.
Yeah, because Harry grabbed the gun and was attempting to kind of take charge.
Yeah.
And Ben, being the badass he is, he knocked the gun down, took it from him, and then shot him in the belly.
He gave him right in the breadbasket. Karen, she finally kicks the bucket. But not for long, because now she joins the living dead and begins chowing down on her father's remains. And then stabs Helen to death with a mason's trowel.
So, funny thing about Marilyn Eastman, there's a scene early in the movie where a zombie is like a lady zombie is kind of stumbling along and she finds a bug on a tree and eats it.
Right.
Yeah.
That was also Marilyn Eastman.
Huh.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, a lot of the actors played zombies as well. And that just goes to show they were shimping before Evil Dead.
It's true.
Hell yeah. I dig it.
You can follow the direct through line from this to Evil Dead, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I did appreciate the scene where she first walks into the farmhouse and then you see like the taxidermied animal heads on the wall. And I remember thinking that sort of like rang a bell. So Barbara snaps out of it a bit, just a bit.
Yeah.
And regains some form of her once functional self. And she tries to be useful.
She saves Helen.
Yeah, in an anxiety-filled effort, she does. And also in just trying to keep the ghouls out. I think they were both, everyone's head was in the right place there for a bit.
Yep.
The tides turn yet again, though. Barbara is dragged away by her reanimated brother, along with a fuck ton of other zombies.
Yeah, there was a lot.
And a full horde of zombies invade the house. So simultaneously, Ben slips into the cellar and he shoots up the zombies of Harry and Helen. And it's kind of nice that, he actually got to murder Harry twice.
It's true.
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed
Yeah.
seeing Harry die twice.
He deserved it.
He did.
He had it coming. I'm sure that was very cathartic for Ben. Something like therapy almost. Anyway, it's now morning, and the terrors of the night they're vanquished, and the rising sun brings this band of armed men.
Led by Sheriff McClelland, who was played by George Costanza.
Yep.
George Costanza.
No.
These men, they fuck up hard, and they mistake Ben for a zombie, and they shoot the piss out of him, and then toss his lifeless remains into a giant zombie bonfire with the rest of the ghouls. And that's that.
So I'd like to state that there was no one person for the film score.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Some names that were listed were Spencer Moore, William Luce, a G. Hormel, a Klinderman, a J. Meakin.
Well, they all did phenomenally.
Yeah. Joe, you want to tell us anything about cinematography before JD goes into special effects? Yeah, I know.
George Romero all the way down.
Yep, George Romero all the way down. All right, JD, why don't you tell us about the special effects?
I will, yeah. We have two major players here for our special effects team. One being Tony Pantanella, or Pantanello. I've seen it actually printed both ways. I'm going with Pantanella. I've seen it printed that way the most, so I'm going with Tony Pantanella. And he has a small number of horror flicks to boast about, but it's quality over quantity with Pantanella. He was born March 18th, 1933, and passed March 30th of 2015. He was responsible for the special effects of Night of the Living Dead, and he was an actor in the film Martian, 1976. He did special effects on a film called The Crazies in 1973. And there were a few other little bits of things that, he was involved with, but not so much in the special effects realm, so I just kind of left it at that. The second artist is Regis Cervinski. Regis was born in 1928 and passed in 2012, and he shared basically all the same horror titles, worked alongside Pantanella on all of the films, so it's not like he did something that I haven't already talked about. And those were the artists.
There is a point of noting that Marilyn Eastman also did some of the makeup effects.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, because there wasn't a whole lot of, gore. I mean, there were a few bullet holes and some stabbing. The gore really was just like, maybe you would give a butcher more credit than anyone.
Right.
Well, I mean, there was some Bosco's chocolate syrup that was flung around.
That's true.
Because it was cheaper. It was cheaper for George Romero to use 35 millimeter black and white than it was to do color.
Right.
And I do love that this film was black and white. I think that just added
it really did.
To the mayhem. And it made the lighting and the special effects more effective.
Right. I agree.
All right. Well,
yep.
This is the point where, unless there's more special effects stuff to talk about.
That's the extent of it as far as I researched.
All right, so now we're going to go ahead and talk about our personal experience with the movie. Joe, go ahead and start us off.
I don't remember the first time I watched Night of the Living Dead. I feel like it's just a movie I've always been aware of.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like I have no clear memory of the first time I watched it. Like I said, it just feels like I've always known about it and have seen it.
It's like a family member.
Sure. Maybe because it's so frequently referenced and you can see it in every zombie movie that came after it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of there. So yeah, I don't know. It's great. And again, it's the grandpa of all zombie movies.
It really is.
And again, like I said, you can see its invisible hand. Sometimes deliberately, sometimes just it's just there.
Would you describe that as an invisible touch?
I could describe that as invisible touch, yeah.
Good touch or bad touch?
Probably good touch.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, nice.
All right, JD, it was your personal experience with the film.
Yeah, I share that feeling attached to this film. I share that in common with Joe. I feel like it's just always been there, and it has a gigantic presence, and it is echoed throughout the history of horror that I'm aware of. It's seen in every horror movie I've ever watched and precursor to so many of my favorites. And I'm excited for this season in particular because I feel like we're going to watch and talk about a whole lot of movies that interest me. And well, it's been the case from the beginning, but Zombies especially, I'm quite fond of.
You get a lot of special effects in zombie movies.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting too to point out, not to get too socio-political of a mindset on this, but I think there is a little bit of a commentary being made here by Romero. That
For sure.
There's a lot of a commentary.
Consumerism, just capitalism, things like that, I think are being, symbolized through people's actions in the movie are almost mirroring things that would happen in reality, and just sort of pointing out the lack of caring sometimes that people can
the
demonstrate.
lack of humanity, so to speak.
That's really the best way.
Yeah.
That's an eloquent way of saying it. Is there's a lack of humanity sometimes that people can demonstrate, and it's really quite ugly. And I think the horror in this film, the truest horror, is demonstrated from living people to other living people more so than the dead coming back to life to torment the living. There's a likeness there with our reality in a lot of ways. And I mean, I'm not saying everything's bad, everyone's bad, nothing like that, but there is a dark side to humanity. And I just think that how better to tell that tale than with a zombie movie.
I agree.
And do it in a way that's not necessarily like hitting anyone over the head with their shortcomings, but doing it with, these symbolic creatures that represent these horrible actions or horrible, whatever you want to call it, throughout time. And I don't know. I just felt like tossing that in there. But
for sure, yeah.
I'm sure that's something that we're going to be running into and be able to discuss quite a bit over the course of the season. So I'm not going to go and, lay it all to waste right now. So how about Kane? What is your personal experience with the film?
I've watched this movie hundreds of times.
I'm right there with you.
It is my favorite zombie movie to this day.
Oh, damn.
I enjoy other zombie movies. I like what they did with gore effects and stuff like that. But actual storytelling, like this movie would still scare me as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Sure.
I would watch this movie and feel like nervous and feel like the pangs of fear that you get in like a haunted house or something like that. I really enjoy this movie as a zombie movie. I would say that as far as like the kind of meat of the film, the fact that the main hero is a black man in 1968 America, that's a lot. That's coming out swinging, and it's something that George was asked about a lot. And I think that JD was hitting on those very important points that, the zombie movies that Romero was doing weren't just schlock. They weren't just like, oh, be shocked at this. It did it. It shocked people. It shocked the teenagers that threw up in the theater.
Right.
But it was telling a story, and it was forcing, humans into a spotlight they're not necessarily happy about being in.
Sure.
But yeah, I love this film.
Empowering a character that had not normally been empowered in films, like giving a character, a ton of confidence to take action and just be the hero.
Oh, for sure.
Dwayne Jones rewrote his character's dialogue because originally the dialogue wasn't changed. It was written for a white trucker and they didn't change anything. But when Dwayne, was a highly educated man, when Dwayne read the script, was like, I'm not saying that. And he went through and rewrote the things that he was going to say. And that change was what made him the perfect hero for this movie.
That's
he was
incredible.
Super smart and, as prepared as one could be. It was very good. But I love this film and I watch it multiple times a year. It's just one of those movies it's just very important to me.
Right.
I don't have any connection to it with like my dad or anything like that. This movie was something that I watched late night when I was a kid and immediately was terrified and then was obsessed with it. But that's my personal experience with the film. Does anybody have anything else to say?
I love that prosthetic hand that was coming through the barricades. And I believe it was Tom who was like slashing at it with a kitchen knife, and it was sort of becoming more serrated and like bits of it were disappearing as he was slashing the knife.
Right.
And then he looks shocked at the knife.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite part of the film is when Harry and Ben finish their little squabble and Harry goes back down to the basement. The contempt in Helen's eyes whenever she's talking to him. And she just talks down to him the whole time. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing that I think that George could have done better, that they ended up doing better in the 90s remake, is the women in this movie had no agency.
Yeah, not treated well by the story.
And I think that could have been done better. But it got corrected in the 90s version. And in the 90s version, Barbara becomes a badass. But we're not talking about that. We're done for the day. If you watched Night of the Living Dead, let us know what you think.
Night of the
You
Living
can find
Dead.
us at WeGiveYouBrainworms.com, as well as most places podcasts live.
It's true.
And all of you YouTube folks should make sure that you definitely like and subscribe.
And click the bell.
And click the bell. And next week, we're covering Night of the Creeps.
Night of the Creeps.
Wait, Kane.
What?
You know what next week is?
I don't give a shit about what next week is, Joe.
But Kane, you know what next week is?
It's the 3rd week of December.
I mean, it is that. But
Okay.
it's fucking Christmas, Kane.
So?
I happen to know of a zombie movie that's somewhat Christmas themed.
Wait. Are you saying there's a Christmas themed zombie movie that's not a horror comedy?
Yeah, there absolutely is. 1984's Night of the Comet.
Oh, damn.
So you want us to switch out Night of the Creeps
Curveball.
next week
Yeah.
for Night of the Comet
Let's do it.
for your Christmas joy?
For all of our Christmas joy. It's not
I
just
don't have Christmas joy, Joe.
Yeah, I don't either, but let's do it anyway.
Maybe Night of the Comet will cause your hearts to grow.
All
3
right,
sizes.
folks, you heard it here. We're doing Night of the Comet for your holiday cheer.
And these 2 Grinches will speak in your ear.
I hate everything.
That's okay.
All right, so Night of the Comet.
Night of the Comet.
JD, sign us off.
Au revoir. No one was getting hit with panties.